Manager Macari is being held for questioning by police about alleged tax offences. The club's captain and two former club officials have also been arrested.
Today's arrests were part of a combined operation by Inland Revenue investigators and the Regional Crime Squad based in Bristol. This morning, their combined teams descended on Swindon's county ground to continue the investigation. Part of that task was to interview Swindon players returning today from Cornwall. Neither current manager Ozzy Ardiles nor the team commenting on the arrests. This is another major blow for Swindon, who've already seen FA disciplinary action against former chairman Brian Hillier and ex-manager Macari after allegations of betting on the result of this game against Newcastle 2 years ago. Macari on television last night still denying he had to clear his name. But fresh newspaper allegations spoke of secret cash payments to Swindon players. Today, the club confirmed that had led to the Inland Revenue's involvement.
There's no indication from the Revenue that any charges are to be brought against the club. It is not anticipated that any such charges will be brought.
Tonight, all four of those detained are being questioned at Bristol's Central Police Station. Robert Hall, ITN, Bristol.
Swindon captain and three ex-club officials arrested as taxmen move into football club.
Calderwood, Macari, Hillier and accountant Farrar still being questioned.
Accidental death verdict on little girl killed when gales wrecked her classroom.
Battle commences at the Army's new village in Wiltshire.
And the Navy drop in to help Yeovil say goodbye to their famous sloping pitch. And good news for you Somerset cricket fans, runs galore today. Good evening. The captain of Swindon Town Football Club and three former officials, including ex-manager Macari, are still being questioned tonight by investigators from the Inland Revenue. The four were all arrested today by the Regional Crime Squad and taken to a police station in Bristol. They are Brian Hillier, the former club chairman, Macari, the ex-manager, the captain, Colin Calderwood, and Vince Farrar, the ex-club accountant. Well, the club tonight issued a statement saying the Inland Revenue were investigating alleged payments to players. They were cooperating fully with them. The sudden move by the Inland Revenue comes as the club is poised for promotion to the First Division for the first time in its history, and it follows the revelations that the club bet on themselves to lose a cup match. Clinton Rogers reports.
It's here at the Old Bridewell police station in Bristol that the investigation has been centred. Throughout the day, officials and former officials of Swindon Town have been coming and going. About an hour and a half ago, the former manager of the club, Macari, swept in here. Earlier, the club captain, Colin Calderwood, was brought here from St Austell. The team had been playing a friendly match there yesterday. Both men are still inside the police station being questioned by the Inland Revenue. So too are the former chairman of the club, that's Brian Hillier, and one-time accountant Vince Farrar. As far as we're aware, no charges have yet been brought, and no one is saying how long the men are going to be kept inside the police station.
When Swindon Town's team coach arrived back from Cornwall this afternoon, it was minus the captain, Colin Calderwood. He'd already been detained at the team's hotel and taken for questioning about the alleged tax offences. The other players went immediately into a briefing session about the inquiry, which also involves three former club officials. Shortly afterwards, around a dozen tax inspectors arrived at the ground, joining several of their colleagues and police officers who've been there since early this morning. The inquiries follow allegations in The People newspaper about unofficial payments to certain players, also being investigated by the Football League. New chairman Gary Herbert said the club were cooperating.
The club has today been visited by the Inland Revenue, investigating certain alleged payments that may have been made to some players. The club has given full cooperation to the Revenue and will continue to do so. There is no indication from the Revenue that any charges are to be brought against the club. It is not anticipated that any such charges will be brought. The club hopes that whatever may have gone on in the past can be put behind it so that the club can get back to playing football.
The latest in a series of allegations about the way the club's run comes as it's on the brink of promotion to the First Division. President Cecil Green said that he was completely taken aback.
Well, when I went down to the ground this morning to see the chairman, as I went in, I was approached by a person who asked me who I was, and I said, well, who are you? And he said, well, I'm the police. And I said, well, I'm the president of the club. And that was the first indication I had of anything at all. And then, of course, he told me then that the tax people were there, and the police, I suppose. And
meanwhile, Lou Macari, the former Swindon manager, who's since also left West Ham, has admitted he's still suffering from the recent controversies.
Unfortunately for me, I've been caught up in trouble at Swindon, which has reflected on myself because, as people have said, Brian Who, and that's obviously the chairman at Swindon who's been involved, people don't want to read about him, people don't even know about him.
But will you ever get over the stigma of the allegations?
With the help from likes of yourself, I will do, yeah.
But isn't it hurting you? Presumably you want to get back into management. Isn't it hurting you at the moment? People are thinking we don't want to take him
It
on.
was hurting me at the time, and it's hurt me ever since. And every time I read something, it does more than hurt me. And that is one of the main reasons why I left West Ham.
Any of the players at all? There are not expected to be any further arrests. But as the taxman drove away from Swindon today, it seemed likely there'd be further visits before the dust finally settles on this new inquiry. The Inland Revenue aren't commenting on today's developments, and Swindon Town's official statement merely refers to the unlikelihood of charges against the club and not against individuals. The club itself appears before the Football League on Friday to answer the allegations about under-the-counter payments to certain star players. Today's arrests merely increase the unwelcome publicity at a time when the club is enjoying one of its best ever seasons on the football field.
Well, today's arrests came as the latest blow to the club, which has been rocked by a series of incidents this season. On the field, Swindon is poised to reach the First Division for the first time in its history. But that could well be taken away from them at a Football League inquiry to be held on Friday. Jane Solomons reports.
The club were caught up in a betting scandal after it was revealed the chairman, Brian Hillier, placed a bet on Swindon to lose an FA Cup tie at Newcastle 2 years ago. Swindon lost the match 5-0 but picked up winnings of £4,600. As the news began to filter out, the club secretary, Dave King, was sacked. At an inquiry in February, the FA fined the club £7,000 and former manager Lou Macari £1,000. Brian Hillier, seen here on the right, was banned from football for 6 months. When he appealed against the verdict last month, his ban on any involvement in football was increased to 3 years. Swindon officials are due to face a Football League disciplinary hearing on Friday, which could decide their future. It's been predicted they could be relegated to Division 3, even if they win promotion playoffs. This punishment was handed out to Peterborough United for financial irregularities 22 years ago. But today's arrests may now make it very difficult to deal with Swindon, with possible legal action pending. A Football League spokesman said today they were now consulting their lawyers on the implication of today's events.
So, Roger, you've been a sports reporter since the mid-50s. You've followed the football scene. This is a bit of a shocker, surely.
Major shock, isn't it? It's the first time I can remember a double scandal involving a club. I mean, they've had the FA scandal over the bet, and now these income tax allegations. It's a real shaker. And Colin Calderwood, the captain, the only player in the present side who's been with them since their 4th division days, a splendid young man in terms of his football play and leadership, and to have him in prison tonight will be a major blow to the morale of the team and the fans. And I saw for the first time on the face of Ozzy Ardiles and Bates there, coming off the coach, Chick Bates, coming off the coach there. They look really shaken about this, whereas up to now they haven't been. They've been riding through the events.
What effect will it have on the performance and on the field?
Well, like all football clubs, they'll put someone else in and they'll give a good account of themselves at Stoke at the weekend. I don't think that will affect the result of that match much. But what the Football League are going to do to them when this is all finished remains to be seen. Peterborough were demoted. Port Vale, when no less a man than Sir Stanley Matthews was their general manager, were demoted for financial irregularities. And the big worry and the gossip in the game is that Swindon are in trouble over this with the Football League.
Roger, thank you very much indeed.
This is BBC One serving the West. Now the news from Points West. With Chris Vasher and Beverly Thompson.
New twist at troubled Swindon Town. 4 arrested for alleged tax evasion. The roof that killed a schoolgirl in the Storms. The coroner is told it was faulty. And violent scenes on the pitch at Yeovil. 3 players are sent off. Good evening. First tonight, the dramatic developments at the West Country's premier football club. In the latest off-the-field blow to hit Swindon Town, 3 former officials, including Lou Macari and the current captain, have been arrested in connection with alleged tax offences. The 4 men are the ex-manager Lou Macari, the former chairman Brian Hillier, Vince Farrar, who recently resigned as the club's accountant, and the current captain Colin Calderwood. The 4 men have been taken to Bristol Central Police Station after a carefully planned operation by both police and the Inland Revenue. This report from David Passmore.
The arrest took place early this morning at locations across the country. The former club chairman, Brian Hillier, was met by police at 7 o'clock at his home near Cairn in Wiltshire. Lou Macari, the former manager, was arrested in Manchester. The team captain, Colin Calderwood, was at a hotel at St Austell in Cornwall, where he had been playing in a friendly match. The 4th man, the club's former accountant, Vince Farrar, was arrested at his home in Swindon. The operation was organised by the Special Investigations Unit of the Inland Revenue. They were helped by the Regional Crime Squad. The 4 men were taken to Bristol Central Police Station. Mr Macari was driven in late this afternoon. All are now being interviewed by Inland Revenue inspectors. There's been activity all day at the county ground, the home of Swindon Town Football Club. Inland Revenue officials searched the offices. There was no comment from the club for much of the day, but shortly after 3 o'clock, the chairman emerged to read a statement.
The club has today been visited by the Inland Revenue, investigating certain alleged payments that may have been made to some players. The club has given full cooperation to the Revenue and will continue to do so. There is no indication from the Revenue that any charges are to be brought against the club. It is not anticipated that any such charges will be brought.
Only 3 weeks ago, the former chairman, Brian Hillier, was banned from the game for 3 years. He was found guilty of a totally separate charge brought by the Football Association of betting on his own side to lose a cup tie. Mr Macari was also found guilty of the same offence and fined £1,000. The Football League have been carrying out an investigation into alleged improper payments to players. A hearing into the matter was due to be held this Friday. But following today's arrests, it seems extremely unlikely that this will go ahead. This latest news comes at a particularly awkward time for the club. They're currently 4th in the 2nd Division and almost certain to be involved in the playoff matches for promotion to Division 1. This evening, the chairman of the supporters club, Chris Scott, said, "It's a very sad day for Swindon Town and for the individuals involved." He added, "If the authorities do prove any wrongdoing, I would hope the individuals concerned take the consequences and not the club." So the off-the-field activities at Swindon Town once again dominate the headlines, and the players have to cope with the extra pressure that brings. But with the Football League inquiry into alleged improper payments to players unlikely to go ahead on Friday, the team can at least finish this season in peace. David Passmore, BBC West, Swindon.
Mr Macari, Swindon's former chairman, Brian Hillier, and Vince Farrar, once the club's accountant, are still being held at Bristol Central Police Station. But the Swindon captain, Colin Calderwood, has been released without charge.
The 3 former Swindon Town officials have now been in custody for well over 24 hours. At Bristol Central Police Station, the questioning goes on, with the club's ex-manager Lou Macari, former chairman Brian Hillier and one-time accountant Vince Farrar being asked about an alleged conspiracy to defraud the Inland Revenue. Investigators have been at the Swindon ground for a 2nd day, examining more documents in their inquiry into illegal payments they believe may have been made to players. Swindon's captain, Colin Calderwood, also arrested yesterday, was back home this morning.
I was interviewed yesterday by the police and released without charges being brought just before midnight.
And in that time you had no contact with the other people involved?
None whatsoever, and I've been advised by my solicitor to not say anything further because there is an ongoing inquiry.
Swindon are lying 5th in the 2nd Division, and a win at Stoke on Saturday would assure them of one of the 4 playoff spots for promotion to Division 1. But there are fears the club could be relegated instead if any financial irregularities are uncovered by a separate Football League inquiry, which has had to be postponed for the moment.
Hopefully, touch wood, on Saturday we'll have made the playoffs, and to get that taken away from you at the end of the season, when you've worked so hard, would be a big blow.
It's believed the financial returns of other football clubs are also being closely examined by the Inland Revenue. If any irregularities are found, they too could be asked to open their books to investigators.
Were arrested by police and Inland Revenue officers. Former manager Lou Macari, ex-chairman Brian Hillier and recently resigned club accountant Vince Farrar are still being questioned at the Central Police Station in Bristol. The inquiry surrounds an alleged conspiracy to defraud the Inland Revenue. The club's present captain, Colin Calderwood, was released without charge shortly before midnight last night. The police have to decide whether to charge or release the other three by midnight tonight. The arrests have prompted the Football League to postpone Friday's scheduled hearing into allegations of irregular payments to players at Swindon. We have two reports. The first from Maggie Matthews.
At Bristol Central Police Station, the three former club officials have now been undergoing questioning since yesterday lunchtime. They're being interviewed by investigators from the Inland Revenue. Their inquiries believed to centre on alleged conspiracy to defraud the Inland Revenue. The tapes are being recorded under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act. If no charges are brought, then the men will have to be released by midnight tonight, 36 hours after the questioning began. So, although a statement may be imminent, there's no indication as yet from police or tax officers about what the next move will be. Maggie Matthews, BBC West, Central Bristol.
Inland Revenue officials have also been continuing their inquiries at the county ground in Swindon today. And the club's captain, Colin Calderwood, has been speaking for the first time about his arrest. He says he has no idea why he was taken into custody and now wants to put the incident behind him and concentrate on winning a place in Swindon's team for Saturday's vital promotion game at Stoke. Martin Palethorpe now reports.
At his Swindon home this morning, Colin Calderwood was hiding the strain of the last 2 days. Released without charge at midnight, he'd spent the previous 17 hours in police custody, being questioned about the alleged tax fraud after being arrested at a Cornish hotel.
2 police officers entered my bedroom and did what they had to do, and I was taken then from there up to Bristol.
What did they tell you at that stage?
The charges that have been in the papers and on the television, conspiracy to defraud Inland Revenue.
What was your reaction when you heard that?
Obviously a bit shocked.
Have you any knowledge at all of payments to players at Swindon?
As I say, I can't say anything. The solicitor has warned me that to do so, because of the inquiry that is ongoing, would be foolish.
An hour later, Calderwood arrived at the county ground for a meeting with club chairman Gary Herbert. His arrival coincided with that of officials spending a second day investigating the club's books in connection with the alleged fraud. As Calderwood re-emerged, he was beginning to show the strain, refusing to comment on his brief meeting with the chairman. Right, OK, but you feel your position at the club is secure anyhow, do you?
Hope so.
And Mr. Herbert would add little to a prepared statement.
We are delighted that Colin Calderwood has been released from police custody and that no charges will be preferred against him, and that we can now hope that he will be allowed to concentrate on his football. Thank you, the Board of Directors.
Among the players, though, relief at the release of their captain was more evident.
Obviously very pleased, and I believe he's OK, so I mean the players will be delighted with that. I think he'd probably been a little bit upset about it. I think anybody who's taken away from a hotel at 7 o'clock in the morning and dragged down to Bristol, I think we'll be quite upset about it, but that won't affect Colin. By this afternoon he'll have not forgot about it, but he'll be ready for Saturday anyway. It's
been suggested that one of the possible outcomes of any inquiries is that the club as a whole would face relegation. How would you view that prospect?
I think that would be unfair to the players that have played all season now. It's been a long season and we've played 40-odd games and we've done reasonably well, and hopefully, touch wood, on Saturday we'll have made the playoffs. And to get that taken away from you at the end of the season when you've worked so hard would be a big blow.
But having faced so many off-the-field distractions already this season, the players have become adept at taking each day as it comes. It would be a cruel twist if, at this late stage, Saturday's game at Stoke didn't see them safely into the playoffs. Martin Palethorpe, BBC West, Swindon.
The ex-club chairman, Brian Hillier, and Vince Farrar, once the Swindon accountant, were also bailed to appear in court again on June the 12th. Macari and Hillier are accused of cheating the Inland Revenue, while Farrar is charged with false accounting.
After 2 days in custody, the former manager and chairman of Swindon Town were brought from police cells to a makeshift magistrates' court. Lou Macari, who'd faced hours of questioning by Inland Revenue investigators, was ushered inside ahead of Brian Hillier. Today they appeared together in the dock, accused of cheating the Inland Revenue over a 4-year period by making payments to employees of Swindon Town Football Club without making deductions for tax and national insurance. Also in the dock, the club's former accountant, Vince Farrar, accused of an offence of false accounting. He was given unconditional bail to appear again in 6 weeks. Macari and Hillier left as they came, by police van, though they too were granted bail on condition that they surrendered their passports and kept away from all Swindon players and officials, past and present. Later, Macari's solicitor had this to say about the charge against his client.
It is not alleged that Mr. Macari benefited personally. The players, on the other hand, have been given immunity from prosecution in respect of those payments. Mr. Macari has nothing to be ashamed of. He has cooperated with the Inland Revenue investigators in their inquiries. He strenuously denies any fraudulent conduct.
And Brian Hillier, its ex-chairman, are both charged with cheating the Inland Revenue. Vince Farrar, who recently resigned as the club's accountant, faces a charge of false accounting. After the court case, Macari's solicitor said his client had nothing to be ashamed of and was cooperating fully with the Inland Revenue. Lucy Artis reports.
Former manager Lou Macari and the club's ex-chairman Brian Hillier arrived at court after their second night in police custody. Lou Macari was taken into the court after being questioned for 2 days along with Hillier and the club's former accountant about alleged financial irregularities at Swindon Town Football Club. This morning, Macari and Hillier appeared in the dock, both charged with cheating the Inland Revenue by making payments to employees of Swindon Town Football Club without deducting tax and national insurance. In Macari's case, the charges cover a period of 4 years up to 1989. In Hillier's, a period of 5 years up to this April. Also in the dock was the club's ex-accountant, Vince Farrar. He's charged with false accounting in the form of a cheque worth £7,500. After the case, Lou Macari's solicitor made a statement on behalf of his client.
Mr. Macari has been charged with an offence relating to alleged payments to players of Swindon Town Football Club made with intent to defraud the Inland Revenue of the tax payable in respect of those payments. It is not alleged that Mr. Macari benefited personally. The players, on the other hand, have been given immunity from prosecution in respect of those payments. Mr. Macari has nothing to be ashamed of. He has cooperated with the Inland Revenue investigators in their inquiries. He strenuously denies any fraudulent conduct.
The 3 men were driven away from the court after Macari and Hillier were granted conditional bail. They've agreed to surrender their passports and not to contact any member of Swindon Town Football Club. Vince Farrar was given unconditional bail and all 3 men will appear in court again on June the 12th. Lucy Artis, BBC West, Swindon.